Okay, so in this very short video, what I'm going to show you is how goods are going to be impacted, specifically how the demand of goods can be impacted. And we're just basically, I mean, you can think about this as some concepts that you probably actually know very well intuitively. We're just adding some new terminologies and some graphical ways to look at this on a demand curve. Okay, so the concepts, what I want you to do in this video is to just put them into real life situations, and you're going to end up with a very clear idea about this by the end. Okay, so real quick, the question is, imagine that there's a good, okay? We're going to model the demand for a goods market, and we want to ask the question, what happens to this particular good, to the demand of this particular good, when the price of other goods changes? Okay, so that's the question, price of other goods. Well, it's really going to depend on whether the other good is going to be either a substitute for the good we're looking at, or if the other good is going to be a complement. So what is this? A substitute. Okay, now in this example, just think about maybe McDonald's hamburgers versus, I don't know, what's the other one? I guess Big Mac comes from Burger King or something like this. So you can buy, they're both very similar, right? You can have one or the other. So those goods are substitutes. So clearly think about this. If the price, let's say, if substitutes like Big Mac, and the quarter pounder, okay? Even within the same, maybe even within the same. So Big Mac, I think these are both quarter pounder. These actually could both be within McDonald's themselves. So you can have substitutes, actually substitution between goods that can happen within your company, or maybe there's also goods external to your company that are also acting as substitutes. So it doesn't really matter whether the good is internal or external. The question is, we're going to look at a specific type of good. So let's take a look at, say, the market for Big Macs, okay? We're going to draw the demand for the market for Big Macs. Just real simple, price and quantity. And we're just going to just really simple linear demand, downward sloping demand function for Big Macs. And we're going to say, what happens if the price of the other, what's the other good? The price of the quarter pounder. What happens if the price of the quarter pounder, so say that the price of the quarter pounder goes up. What's going to happen? Well, what happens? Just think about it. What happened? Quarter pounders get more expensive. You can have either a quarter pounder or a Big Mac, so what are you going to have? You're going to have more Big Macs, right? Substitutes. Price increase causes an outward shift in the demand for Big Macs. Again, if the price, so that's what the price increase was substitutes. If the price fell, what would that happen? Well, quarter pounders would become cheaper relative to Big Macs, so they become cheaper, so people don't buy Big Macs as much. They go, hey, I'll buy that quarter pounder. So actually the demand for the Big Mac would actually shift inward if the price fell. Again, if they're substitutes, a price increase will be a shift outward, and a price decrease would cause a shift inward. Now, that's between substitutes. Now, what's a complement? Let's look at this. Complements are goods that go together. Think about like peanut butter and jelly, okay? You can have tires on a car. Typically, complements are going to be these things that are parts of, they're parts. So by themselves, not as tasty, not as like useful as when they're put together. And this happens everywhere, because actually look around you. Everything is made up of all different multiple parts, okay? Anything that has a design is inherently a certain combination of parts, right? Those are all complements to each other. Now, if they're complements, think about how this would work. So what's an example of complements? Okay, I mean, the most classic one, we get hot dogs and buns, right? Buns. So again, let's draw the market for hot dogs real quick. Price and quantity of hot dogs, and a downward sloping demand curve for our hot dogs. And let's just think, what happens if the price of buns goes up? What happens? So if the price of the other good, that's what we're talking about here. With the price of buns, how's that going to affect the demand curve for hot dogs? Well, think about this. The price of buns go up, what are you going to do? Well, in order to have a hot dog, an actual hot dog with a bun, okay, you both need a hot dog and you need the bun. So look, If the price of the buns go up, it makes the cost of actually making a hot dog more expensive. Is that right? So demand less hot dogs. Demand curve shifts in. Again, if the price of buns falls, it makes the overall cost of having a hot dog with a bun, cheaper if the price falls. So then price falling would cause the demand curve to shift out. That's how that works, okay? The second thing we want to think about is how changes in income can affect demand. And you just think, well, guess what? That seems kind of silly. If I get more money, I'm going to demand more of everything. Actually, no, that's not true. The most common thing you think about is I get more money, and so, okay, look, let's just draw this is under normal situations, so it's going to follow your logic. Price, quantity, we can have the demand for something like this, right? Not just the demand curve, it could be anything. It's going to be something that's a normal good. I want you to think about this. Your income increases. So people's incomes increase, and we just think demand's going to shift out like this, right? That's the common way that's a normal income effect. But actually, there's another class of goods called inferior goods. What might an inferior good be? Well, actually, an inferior good could very well be a Big Mac. Now, I know for you college students, maybe you're going to eat a Big Mac if you're a millionaire, or if you're Donald Trump or somebody, you'll eat a Big Mac all the time anyway. I know that's going to not be true for everybody, but most people, they get richer, and guess what? They're going to want to have steak, they're going to have higher cuts of meat. They don't want to eat that cheap McDonald's drive-thru. I mean, come on, I can afford more than that, right? So guess what? Your income goes up, and if it's an inferior good, if your income rises, then it actually would cause your demand to fall. That's how inferior goods work. Your income goes up, and actually that causes the demand to fall. Now this could be, there's actually a lot of different types of inferior goods in the marketplace. You can think about sort of anything that's going to, top ramen noodles, all the things that you would probably not buy if you were a millionaire are going to be things that are example of inferior goods. And I'll just leave it up. And the thing is, it's going to be different for everybody. But when we actually go estimate these things, what we can do is do some kinds of statistics, and you can sort of classify things in a more statistical way based upon, what people do on average, which, again, I get it. There's going to be anomalies. Nothing is going to always be inferior to everybody, but we can talk about these things in broad categories, because most people probably are going to not want to have cheap food or cheap, like say, Goodwill clothes. I mean, nothing wrong with shopping at Goodwill. It's a great thing. You can find some good little retro things there. Maybe you do it anyway. I'm not trying to knock it, but if I was a millionaire, I'd probably be going to the Gucci or somewhere, right? I'd be going somewhere luxurious, and or at least I would, there would probably be, most people would probably not shop as much at Goodwill if they were millionaires, if they had a ton of money. That might be the case for some. You get the point. It doesn't have to fit the shoe for everybody. It's just, the question is, how does it fit the shoe for most people? And when it's your business, that's actually what you're kind of concerned about, right? So, so that's the lesson for this. I will just do a quick application about this, in that we need to think about substitutes and complements. So say you're actually managing a product line with a lot of different types of products, right? It really matters the degree of substitutability or complementarity between your products. Why? Because say you say, okay, guess what? I'm going to do a sale, okay? So say you want to do a sale with one product. Guess what? Your sale on that one product should have demand effects on other products in your basket, okay? So say I drop the price, and say you have nothing but substitutes in your basket. Well, guess what? The price of that one good that you had the sale for might cause that one good to be sold more, but maybe at the expense of other goods that would have been sold had you not had that sale. So in other words, people might substitute out, right, of the goods that they would have bought from you into this other cheaper one, and you're not buying any more. Maybe sometimes that might actually happen in places like, you look at like value menus and things like this. Like, okay, well, guess what? I'll buy your chicken nuggets. I would have bought your $1.50 or $3 hamburger, but guess what? You got chicken nuggets there. There's a nice substitution there. I can buy those for $1, get a meal, and so maybe like these dollar menus, things like that. They can actually promote sales of, these very low cost kind of sale items at the expense of other items that maybe I would have bought anyway. So just because a sale is increasing revenue in one product line, we have to look at the whole basket. And that's what you have to do in business. You have to consider the bottom line from a very fundamental company standpoint. If you're going to be doing some kind of product management, we're going to get into that with a data project. I'm going to have a real life data project for you. And that's it for complement substitutes and income effects of demand.